The rain lashed against the windows of Willowbrook House like insistent, cold fingers. Eleanor Harper, practical to her core, tightened the belt of her worn cardigan and surveyed the cavernous living room. Dust motes danced in the weak beam of her flashlight. The estate agent, as enthusiastic description characterful, full of potential still, felt like a cruel joke now. The Victorian monstrosity on Whisper Lane was damp, drafty, and according to local whispers, profoundly unsettled. Eleanor dismissed the latter. Ghost stories were for tourists and the superstitious. She needed space, quiet and cheap rent. Willowbrook offered all three, specters included or not. The first few days were a blur of unpacking, battling ancient plumbing, and discovering the symphony of creaks and groans inherent in century old timber. The unease started subtly. A persistent chill clung to the grand staircase, defying the clanking radiators. Eleanor would find doors she distinctly remembered, closing standing slightly ajar once, while sketching architectural details in the dusty study. She felt an unmistakable breath of icy air on the back of her neck. She spun around, heart hammering, to find only shadows and swirling dust. Then came the sounds. Late one night, as wind howled down the chimneys, Eleanor heard it, a faint, mournful humming. It seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, a simple, repetitive melody that tugged at something primal within her. A lullaby. It was both beautiful and profoundly sad. She searched the upper floor, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, but found nothing. The humming stopped as abruptly as it started when she reached the landing outside the small, locked room at the end of the hall. The one room the agent had said contained structural issues and was best left alone. The occurrences escalated. Lights flickered wildly in empty rooms. Whispers, too faint to decipher, seemed to curl around her ears in the dead silence. Before dawn, the pervasive cold intensified, particularly near the locked room. Eleanor found herself drawn to it, pressing her ear against the heavy outdoor. Sometimes, the humming lullaby seemed strongest there. Other times, she heard a different sound, a soft rhythmic scraping, like fingernails gently dragging downward from the inside. Her skepticism eroded, replaced by agonizing dread. Sleep became mellow, save. Shadows seemed to deepen and solidify at the corners of her vision. One afternoon, while trying to hang a picture in the hallway, her ladder wobbled violently. She felt a distinct, icy push against her back, sending her son tumbling forward. Only her quick grab at the banister saved her from a nasty fall. She whirled around trembling, the air crackling within. "Sing Mouse, leave me alone," she shouted, her voice echoing hollowly in the vast space. The oppressive cold deepened momentarily, then retreated, leaving her gasping. The final catalyst came from Mrs. Gable, the elderly neighbor who brought over all calm and slightly suspicious casserole, overweight tea. Her eyes darted nervously around Eleanor. "Scuttered kitchen, you hear it, don't you, dear?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "The singeing?" Eleanor nodded, too weary to pretend. "It's her, Mrs. Gable said, leaning closer. "Agnes Thorne lived here long ago. Lost her little boy, Thomas, diphtheria. They say poor soul could and tea buried. They found her, well after, in that little room upstairs, the nursery." She shuddered. She won't trust thinks any woman in the house is taking her place or neglecting her child. She wants someone to watch him. She wants company. The locked room, the nursery, the lullaby, the icy push. It coalesced into a terrifying truth. Agnes wasn't just haunting. She was recruiting. She needed a guardian for her lost child, a companion in her eternal grief. And she had chosen Eleanor. That night the house felt charged, expectant. The cold was a physical weight. The humming lullaby was louder, clearer, laced with an undercurrent of desperate longing. Eleanor had laid on the sofa, every nerve alight, clutching a heavy iron poker, useless against the intangible. But the comfort nonetheless died down. It came from upstairs, directly above her, a single heavy impact. Thump, then silence, a silence so deep, it pressed on her eardrums. Then a new sound, a slow, deliberate dragging, heavy, relentless, coming down the stairs. Thump, drag, something heavy being pulled. Paralysis gripped her. The dragging sound reached the bottom of the stairs and paused in the Hallway outside the living room door. The temperature plummeted. Frost bloomed across the inside of the window panes. The door handle began to turn. Slowly, with infinite terrifying patience, Eleanor's breath hitched. This wasn't just a presence. It was an invitation. Agnes was just trying to scare her out. She was trying to bring her into the cold, into the grief, into the nursery. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled terror, Eleanor did the only thing she could think of. She didn't scream. She didn't run towards the door. Instead, she took a deep, shuddering breath and began to sing, not a scream, but the lullaby. The same mournful, simple tune she did humming through the walls. Her voice was shaky, thin, but she poured out every ounce of desperate empathy she could muster into it. Hush now, my darling, the night is so deep. The dragging sound stopped. The turning handle froze. Stars watch above you while angels sleep. The crushing cold seemed made to hesitate. The humming Agnes had projected ceased abruptly, replaced by a listening silence. Eleanor kept singing, focusing on the melody's inherent sadness, not its fear. Close your eyes, my precious one. A wave of profound, soul-crushing sorrow washed over her, not her own, but Agnes's. It was an ocean of loss. Centuries deep tears streamed down Eleanor's face, but she kept singing, her voice gaining a fragile strength. Dream of the morning the new day began. The frost on the windows began to recede. The unbearable pressure in the air lessened. The intense cold around the door retreated, pulling back like a receding tide. The sorrow remained, a palpable ache in the room, but the malice, the desperate need to claim, had diminished. The dragging sound did not resume. The door handle remained still. After a long moment, Eleanor heard a sound like a sigh, woven into the wind outside. Then, silence, a true silence devoid of humming, whispers or scraping. The next morning, weak sunlight streamed through the windows. The house felt different, still old, still creaky, but the oppressive dread was gone. The unnatural cold had vanished. Tentatively, Eleanor approached the locked nursery door. It was still locked, but the aura of desperate sadness clinging to it felt quieter, contained. Eleanor never opened that door. She understood now. Agnes was gone. Her grief was too vast, but Eleanor, as singing the lullaby, not in fear, but in shared sorrow, acknowledging the lost child, had changed. Something. She hadn't become the guardian Agnes sought, but she had offered a moment of recognition, a fleeting connection in the endless night of Agnes' mourning. Eleanor stayed at Willowbrook. The rent was cheap, and sometimes, on the very edge of hearing, when the wind sighed, just right through the old eaves, she would catch the faintest echo of a lullaby, not menacing, not demanding, just a mother's song, carrying a sorrow as deep and cold as the grave, a reminder that she wasn't truly alone in the old house on Whisper Lane. She was unable to grieve that time couldn't bury, an unwilling witness to a love that refused to end. Even in death, the silence now held a different weight, the heavy quiet of a watched peace.